Thank you for coming. It's very nice to have somebody else in here. I'm normally in here all on my own.
I noticed.
Weeks on end.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad to be here. And thanks for renting this clarinet for me. It's been 10 years, but I kind of want to get back into it.
It's okay. I actually made it last night in my workshop.
Did you really?
No.
I didn't want to say anything, but I could kind of tell. It's got your handcrafted mark.
What do you mean? It's slightly imperfect?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing that's always annoyed me about discussions on musical instruments with people who don't play them is they always say, oh, it must be so wonderful to be able to play the piano or play the guitar. It must be so relaxing. But it isn't, is it? It's actually torment.
It's mental work, yeah. It can be fun. It can be fun to speak through the instrument, right? And kind of put some attitude into what you're doing. It's very expressive. But yeah, to get there, to get to the point where you can express how you feel through it takes, like you said, well, 10,000 hours would be great, but I never had that much.
No, and that's the thing. You do have to put a massive amount of work in. And you're right. The problem I always have, because I never do any practice, hardly touch the thing at all these days, but I was always a much better musician in my head than I was at the end of my fingers. So up here, I knew exactly what the music meant, how the phrasing should be, where the accent should be, all that stuff was there. But down here, it was more like somebody building a shed with some simple hand tools.
Right. Do you think that's kind of a natural distinction between people who are good and people who are great? Like the great ones just, it's all connected, it all works 100%.
I think, the people who are really great at music are the ones who sort of experience it like it's almost a sort of metabolic thing. I think it's simply there. I remember somebody once described to me a conversation with one of the great concert pianists. I can't remember which one it was, but he always used to say that he knew a piece when it became a one-buttock experience. When he was learning it, he'd be sitting at the piano, but he said by the time he had the piece right, like a big concerto with an orchestra, he was always on one buttock or the other. He was never on both. And as a result of that, the chairman of Lego, absurdly, said that he wanted to make Lego a one-buttock company.
Wow.
It would be that dynamic.
Then maybe that's good advice for life. Could you do this on one buttock? Is that the most natural way to do it? If it is,
I think it means you have complete understanding once you're on one buttock. Whilst you crave the security of both buttocks on the chair, you're not quite sure. You're not quite sure what you're doing. And if you go in, to play the Rachmaninoff, or one of the big Beethoven, the Emperor concerto, say, and you find yourself there in the Carnegie Hall or the Royal Albert Hall, and you suddenly realise you're on both buttocks, I think you've got to make a run for it then.
But you have a background in music, right?
Yeah.
Tell me
I was
about
always on
this.
both buttocks.
Is that why you chose this topic?
Yes, because I'm intrigued by it. I mean, there's a scientific side to music, and there are lots of debates about whether or not it's actually mathematical.
Right.
I'm never entirely convinced by that argument because I'm very into J.S. Bach, and a lot of people say, oh, well, he was basically just a mathematician, and it's all equations. But if that's so, why can't somebody else reverse the process and give us some Bach, which they can't? So it's not quite that simple.
Or get a computer to compose things that are indistinguishably beautiful from what Bach was making.
And they can't do that. They can make sort of ersatz Bach with computers, but it just isn't as good as the real thing.
Right.
There's no sort of psychoacoustic thing. It is only arithmetic, which is merely a way of explaining the world, I think.
When I was a kid, I was obsessed with being smarter, and so I only listened to classical music. I was not cool. I didn't listen to what was popular. My first compact disc was Classical Thunder, which was all the crazy loud classical pieces. Do you remember this?
Dimly, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a
lot of Wagner on it, probably.
Yes, it had the theme from 2001: A Space Odyssey. I'm going to ruin the name. Thus Spake Zarathustra.
Thus sprach Zarathustra.
That's it.
Strauss,
That's
yes.
it. The William Tell Overture and a lot of that opera, the kind that you see in epic movies. But then eventually I wanted to be popular, and I listened to MTV.
I was going to say something else really incredibly intelligent, but because I haven't played the piano enough recently, my brain's just not good enough.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Oh well.
Just imagine what everyone's missing out on.
Yeah, but since we don't know what it was, God, isn't that amazing to think that you will never know and I will never remember, and it may have been rubbish.
I think you'll remember.
But it may have been deeply profound. It might have been like Newton's first law of motion or something. It could have been, it could have changed the world, what I was about to say then. And because I didn't practice, I can't think what it was. So if you're young and your brain is still pliable and plastic and able to be molded, and you're learning a musical instrument, you must practice. There's no app. Do what he did. Practice, practice, practice. You will be more intelligent, you will be more satisfied in life, and to be brutally honest, you stand more chance of scoring. And that is a fact.
It's been proven.